Welcome to the Contrarians, and tonight I want to welcome Tim Durling to the show. He's just written a brand new book, Let It Be Your Guide, the album review of Kansas. We're going to get into it, so let's get started. Welcome to the Contrarians, and tonight I want to welcome Tim Durling to the show. It's a big deal, ladies and gentlemen. Tim has just written a brand new book, Let It Be Your Guide, the Kansas album review. This is Tim's third book, and I thought it'd be great to have Tim on the Contrarians tonight to talk about it. We love Tim. Tim's been on the Contrarians ever since we started doing panel discussions, so always great to have Tim here. And Tim, how are you? Nice to see you. Welcome to the show.
I'm doing good, Grant. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, I mean, my none of my books would exist if it weren't for the people I've met online, for sure. Especially the panel books, because you're in this book. You're one of many esteemed panelists.
Yeah,
and
I'm honored.
Really,
I'm honored. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, I needed to talk to people that knew this band and knew these albums. And you definitely were able to add some insight to the chapters that we discussed. Each chapter is an album. So anyone that has my Y&T book, Down for the Count, this is the same setup. It's a chapter for each of the studio albums, although I talk about the live albums and the compilations at the end. But yeah, we're mainly concentrating on the studio albums. In the case of Kansas, there are 15 of them. I think it's important for people to realize this band did not have a few albums in the 70s, and then they're just out there playing the old songs. They've been on a roll lately. Their two newest albums are very, very strong albums. And if they hadn't been, Grant, I don't know if I would have been inspired to do this book, even though I've been a Kansas fan for a long time. But I want people to hopefully dive into this catalog. And this really came out really, really well. I love the artwork.
It's beautiful.
Artwork is stunning. My good friend Matt Phillips from Go North Design helped me with the artwork. It is AI assisted with a lot of edits, and obviously, if you look at it, if you're a diehard Kansas fan, there's lots of imagery in there from the album cover. So it's one of those things. The more you look at it, the more you see in it. Actually, I don't even have my official copy yet. My copy is still my watermarked proof copy. Yeah. But one of my favorites, I'll get you to hold up the spine.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, hold up. Okay. All right. Everybody here in the chat, everybody watching this, what does the spine look like to you?
Yes, exactly. I knew that I wanted to. Okay. And if people are there going, I can't quite place it, hang on. I've got just the thing. What is that? What is that color pattern? What does that font remind you of? It looks like the old CBS CDs, like the monolith one I'm holding up here, with the impact font. So I knew I wanted that spine, because originally I thought, well, maybe I'll have the cover wrap around, but I thought, no, I want a white spine with red lettering in impact to make it look like the old CBS.
It looks like the old CBS CD.
Yeah. I'm a sucker for things like that.
Tim, when I'm looking for, I'm just going to go into, I've got both the originals. This is geeky. Of course, we're geeky. We're talking Kansas. I've got the original CDs, and then I've got the remasters. The original CDs sound better, but you got to have the remasters for those bonus tracks.
And you know what? And I'm remiss. I'm missing. I don't have any of the remastered. Because I know I got to get, among other things, I got to get Two for the Show, because my old Two for the Show disc, it doesn't have Closet Chronicles on it. So
yeah, I think, which one do I have? I don't have the remaster of that.
They omitted that to fit everything on one CD, so I've got to get the new.
You got to have it.
Yeah, so I will. That's the thing. I will. This is a band I've been into for a long, long time. I got into them in 1992. I talk all about that in the book, how I got into them and why I got into them when I did. But I've always just thought that they were, people know Kansas obviously, they've got two songs that will outlive all of us: "Carry On Wayward Son" and "Dust in the Wind." Those will be on classic rock radio until the end of time. But there's so much more. They're just such a great band, and they've had so many different sounds over the years under their very specific. I don't even know how you completely define what they do. Some of it's prog, some of it's AOR, some of it's southern rock, some of it's more commercial. It's all good. It's pretty much all good. So
yeah, they're kind of like one of those bands. I'm going to go with Pete Pardo we just did a show on Nantucket, and they're another one of those bands that's hard to pigeonhole. Kind of like Max Webster, though. Kansas isn't like Max Webster, which is kind of,
they're not. Kansas aren't quite as out there as Max Webster. I love Max
but
Webster.
They do cover a lot of different styles.
Yeah. Kansas, above all, there's always a melody involved, even if they're playing in a crazy time signature and all the members are playing full on. Yeah, it's melodic. There's always a melodic template to what they do, and they also, I think, had one of the greatest rock vocalists ever in Steve Walsh. I mean, that guy does not get the credit. He doesn't get mentioned along the great rock vocalists, especially that came out in the 70s. There's a lot of reasons why I just think that, they deserve to have this really in-depth look. In case anyone's wondering, this was supposed to be a live stream, but for various technical possibilities, it's not.
It's not. So Tim, you've put out, this is your third book.
Yeah.
You've done an 8-track book. You did the book on Y&T. Yep. What made you want to dive into Kansas? What was the inspiration for this?
They would have always been right up there in the list of bands that I would want to see done this way. All three of my books really are ones that if someone else had done them, I would have just bought them. I wouldn't have put them out. It's the type of book I've always wanted to read on this band, to get a bunch of people that have been either people that have been listening to them for years or people that got into them just a few years ago, but fans of the band. And the way the panel discussions work, if nobody's read one of the books, Martin Popoff's done a bunch of them, and that's where I got the idea from. But you get a bunch of people lined up, and you figure out which albums each group of people are going to do. It's not the same every time. You ask a certain amount of questions, and you ask everyone the same questions, and the answers fill the book. And I really wanted to get to the bottom of why is this band, this is a band that sold millions of albums. Left Overture currently sits at 5 million sold in the US. It's a big album. Point of No Return, 4 million. The Best Of, they put out in '84, is at 3 million now. They've got a live album that went single platinum, and then they've got 5 other albums that went gold. They've sold a lot of records, and yet people know 2 songs from them. I'm talking about out there in the big world. And to me, they should be right up there with the Led Zeppelins and the Aerosmiths and the Deep Purples. They should be in that. And they're kind of not there. They're kind of like kings of the second tier, but I think they're better. They're worthy of that, one of those major rock bands, and not just a footnote. And I kind of wanted people to take a second look and think, wow, there's a lot. I like this song, and then I like that song, and I like that song. I like that song too. So there's a lot to offer. There's a lot to offer in this catalog.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to modern rock radio, all you're pretty much going to hear is, well, anymore. I mean, back in the day, Tim, you would hear "Hold On," you would hear "Dust in the Wind." Here in Central Ohio, I have not heard "Dust in the Wind" on the radio forever. Now, maybe if you're on satellite radio or something, but they do play "Carry On Wayward Son" religiously. Every day you can hear it.
It's really interesting with that song because, if you look at the hard stats, "Dust in the Wind" was the more successful song back in the day. That peaked at number 6 on Billboard, whereas "Carry On" peaked at number 11. But a lot of it is the show Supernatural, because that was like Carry On Wayward Son was sort of like the unofficial theme song, Supernatural. It's the reason my kids got to know that song. And so now that song has just, it's kind of like Don't Stop Believing. Wasn't the highest charting song by the band, but it's the one now. It's the one.
It's the
Yeah, I hear Carry On and I hear Dust in the Wind, and every once in a while I'll hear Point of No Return, but not very much. But the fact of the matter is that they had 7 top 40 singles in the US, and then they had, I think, 7 others that hit the top 100. So this was a band that, you know, no stranger to radio play, but you know, as radio playlists get more and more, you know, smaller and smaller and smaller, those songs that were on the peripheral get forgotten, and I want them to come back. I want people to know Hold On and Play the Game Tonight and Fight Fire with Fire and Paradox, and you know, well, maybe not Paradox, Portrait, but you know, yeah, I think that I want people to know 5 or 6 Kansas songs by the time they finish reading this, and hopefully get some albums, get some of the albums.
Well, I must say this is good. And I think this is one of those books that needed to be written, because I don't think there's anything like this out there on the band Kansas. If there is, I've never seen it. But what I like about the idea where you can go through and compile everyone's different views on these albums, you're getting a lot of different opinions. You're getting a lot of different comments about people. And, you know, where you're looking at, let's say, you know, you look at a Rolling Stone record guide and they're talking Monolith. This way, you've got a whole group of people basically reviewing a record. And I think you get much more of a balanced review, whether favorable. I'm sure some of these records, maybe people weren't crazy about. Maybe they are. I don't know. But I think you get a lot better opinion. And if you read this book, I think you'll probably get, and if you're looking at Kansas stuff, you probably could get a lot better idea about these records from this than just a typical record review. Because I think, for one, I think Kansas has a lot to offer, and I think they're definitely a valid band to look at. Yeah, it's a fabulous book. And I do want to say that the link to purchase the book is down below. So you can pick it up on Amazon, and follow that link and you can have your own copy. So
yeah, and it's whatever, you know, wherever your home Amazon is, whether it's the UK or whether it's Australia, like all my books are now available through Amazon. I mean, as people know that we're from the beginning, my Unspooled book was initially Kickstarter, then brought it over to Amazon. The Y&T was strictly Amazon, and so is this one. And it's been good for me too, because you know, I've talked to a lot of different people, and I've learned things about certain Kansas songs that I'd never noticed before, and that's good. I love that stuff. I love picking up on those. Hey, did you notice that at 327 it goes like this, and you can hear somebody say this in the background. I also want to say, you know, I had some really, you know, this was never supposed to be an authorized thing. It's strictly by the fans for the fans. But having said that, I do have some very, very cool people in here that have had ties with the band. The intro is done by Jeff Wagner, who worked at Inside Out Music, who signed Kansas when they put their first new album out in 16 years, The Prelude Implicit, and the follow-up, The Absence of Presence, and 2 live albums. Jeff also is part of Radical Research Podcast. He's written some books, and Zoni wrote an excellent book on Fate's Warning. He's working on a Voivod book, and Jeff also did my first 2 deep dive episodes on my YouTube channel, and he wrote a very cool foreword to the book. So that was cool. I talked to Denise de la Cerda, who was the cover artist that did those last 2 Kansas albums, studio albums, and the live albums, and her experiences about that. I interviewed her. And I also asked some questions of John Elephant, who was the singer on Vinyl Confessions and Drastic Measures, and got his answers and sprinkled those throughout those chapters. So, I mean, yeah, people were very generous with their time. You know, there's a lot more. There's more panelists in this book than in Y&T, way more.
Oh,
some of the same, but I think there's 29 altogether, and that's way more than my Y&T book had. I'm very proud of the way the Y&T book came out, but you know, you hope that you get better as you go.
Hmm.
And yes, the way it came out, all the pictures in the book are from my own collection. So, that's all from my personal collection. Yeah, I got to put the
Yeah,
eight
I
tracks in
noticed
there.
there's tons of 8 tracks in here.
Have to, have to. And I might add, as a sort of a tie into the Unspooled, maybe farther up than people might think they'd be on 8 track. But oh yeah, the cassette spines and the gatefolds, and that's all. That's all from my music collection. So, um, but yeah, I really want people to understand that this is a band that's still out there. They're still on the road, and they're still making really good new music. I mean, if they follow the pattern that they've been on, there could be a new Kansas album out this year. In which case, I've got to do another chapter. But yeah, those newer. It's the same thing when any classic band puts out new music. It never does anything, you know,
Well,
which is
yeah,
a shame because it's quality stuff, and I
yeah.
want people to be aware that uh, the absence of presence is just as much worth your time, your money, your listening as another remastered copy of Left Overture. It's all good. It's all quality. Like in my opinion, um, even the albums that I like the least by Kansas still have some gems on them. And when you get into the independent years, they're still making really good music, like Freaks of Nature and Somewhere to Elsewhere. Those are great albums that unfortunately just didn't get the push that they would have on a major label. So yeah, I
Well,
wanted them all to get an equal amount. This isn't, this when you know, an officially authorized thing, maybe not Kansas, but if a band puts out an officially authorized book, it usually concentrates on their most successful period, and the rest of the stuff's maybe a footnote. I gave equal opportunity to each of those 15 studio albums.
yeah, beautiful. You're not going to get this anywhere else, ladies and gentlemen. So I would highly recommend if you are a hardcore Kansas fan or a casual fan, or if you were trying to get into the band, do yourself
And
a favor,
that's
go down
what
to
I
the link
wanted.
below and order this book.
That's what I wanted to do with the Y&T book too. And what I did with this book, Grant, is that if someone's curious, where do I start? What songs are in what albums?
Mhm.
It's all here. It's all here for you.
It's the go-to guide as far as I'm concerned. Even though, of course, I do know I'm in here, but I'm really looking forward to really going through and reading what everyone has to say, because you have tons of contributors to this book, and it's very impressive. Look at all these people that have contributed. Absolutely wonderful. So you're getting all kinds of commentary from different people on this, and I'd have to recommend it. So I'm just curious. You did the Y&T book. So let's talk wine. I have a question about Y&T. Why did you start with the Y&T? What was it about that? Was
Oh,
Y&T like one of those bands like Kansas that you had a big passion for? Or a lot of this could be because you could be going through, like me, if I could be like on a Kansas kick, I'd be going, well, you know what? I might want to write a book on Kansas right now. But I don't know.
Y&T. Well,
And that I want to mention that, ladies and gentlemen, like he said, both of his books are still available on Amazon, correct, Tim?
yeah, if you type in my
Y&T.
name on Tim Durling under
Okay.
books, should bring up those 3 books. Yeah, they should all be there. Y&T have been one of my favorite bands since I got into them back in
Mhm.
1990, and I've always thought that they should have been way bigger than they were. They were always, they never quite broke through. They came very, very close, but they've made consistent music over the years, sometimes on big labels, sometimes not. And I wanted to document all of that.
Mhm.
Um, with Kansas, now we're talking about a much more successful band, but they've just, they've always been such a favorite of mine. And like, I love Queen. There's no shortage of Queen books. Queen are everywhere,
Mhm.
and not just one song. I think Kansas are every bit as good. I really do. I think they're every bit as good as Led
I
Zeppelin.
think
I think that they
they have a strong,
deserve.
okay, God, I gotta watch out what I'm gonna say. I think Kansas has a stronger catalog than Queen, better records
Well,
for the
Kansas
most
doesn't
part.
have a hot space. That's all I'll say about that.
Mhm.
But I mean, Queen are amazing, and
Well, I
there's
think to a
there's a
certain point,
there's a slight tie-in. by the
What's
way.
that?
Oh, you'll have to read the book.
Well, okay. Well, all right.
It's a very small one, but it's a cool one because I didn't know about it
There's
until
a
I got the
Queen
master's edition of
tie-in.
one of the albums.
A Queen tie-in.
Well, I mean,
Can't think of it.
one is that they opened for Queen um, in '75, but that's not what I was referring to.
Okay.
There's a personnel, not a band member thing, but there's a guest appearance. Let's put it that way. There's a guest appearance, and
Gotcha.
some of you out there might know what I'm talking about, but I wouldn't have known about it if I didn't read the liner notes. So, and that's
Mm,
another thing I love about this band is their artwork. I love their album artwork.
phenomenal.
It's they might have my favorite band logo. Love the Kansas logo. Um, yeah, I can get on a Kansas kick like no other band. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
maybe not like no other band, but like as far as prog rock is concerned, if you want to call them prog rock, like I'm an enormous Rush fan. Rush are one of my favorite bands ever. There's lots of books on Rush, plenty, and that's good. More content, the better. I think there should be a bunch of books on Kansas. There,
There
there
should
really
be.
aren't. I mean, Kerry Livgren, wrote a book. Um, you know, there are books that are about Kansas or about parts of their career, but I'm not aware of any of them that was quite like this, that really dug down and did all of the lineups. Like, about 9 years ago, Sony put out an excellent documentary called Miracles Out of Nowhere, which is all about the original six, the original band members, and it basically goes all the way through the 70s.
Hmm.
And that's great, but I remember thinking, boy, I'd like to see that same quality throughout their career, but that doesn't have the marquee value, the sales value, you know. But like I said, I wanted to give each album their due. Didn't matter whether it came out on Sony or whether it came out on Magna Carta. I wanted it to give, each album its equal space.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're curious about Kansas or if you're a big fan, I think this book is for you because there are people in this book that were newbies to Kansas and now they're fans. So, and to me, that's the most gratifying thing. When people said, yeah, I bought a couple of their albums, it's really good. Great. To
And
quote one of their songs, that's all I
what we're
wanted.
trying to do is turn people onto music.
Exactly.
And if you haven't heard Kansas, or if you're a casual fan, this is the book for you because
Yeah.
it's everything you need. Yeah, all we're trying to do is talk music and turn you on to stuff. So awesome. I'm just curious, but how long did this book take? When did you
Uh,
start this project? Because my concept of time, Tim, is really bad.
Beginning of the year, I think.
Yeah.
Beginning of the year, started gathering interviews. Actually, I might be able to tell you. Hang on a second, because some of these, like the Y&T, I did as Zoom interviews, and some of
Mhm.
them I did as sending out the answers and getting the written responses. But as far as the video interviews, panel interviews, my earliest one, well, I guess my earliest one was February.
All right.
So
Wow.
album intro, January. Yeah, so it's taken me about half a year,
Wow,
which
that's awesome.
not not bad for turning a book around.
Right. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Did it take you less time to do this book as opposed to Y&T? I
Yes and
mean,
no.
you could probably improve. You're honing your craft.
Yeah, yes and
I
no.
bet.
This took longer because and I got to give my friend Matt kudos again because he spent a lot of time proofreading, and what he brought to the table was he was someone that was not familiar with the band. So a lot of times I would write something or somebody would give an answer and
Mhm,
I knew exactly what they meant because I'm an enormous fan.
mhm,
He would say, "What does that mean? I don't understand that reference.
mhm.
Explain it a little bit more. Could you explain it a little bit more?" So little things like that. And the proofreading is a real art. I can't do it,
I
especially
don't
my
know if
own
I'd
stuff.
have enough patience to do it.
No, I can't do it. And the reason I don't have patience, but the other reason is that because it's my own stuff, I
You
know what it's
can't.
supposed to look like. I know what
Yeah.
it's supposed to say. So that's what my eyes see.
Yeah.
And you look back on it and you go, that's not right.
You got to
That
have
doesn't
an
make
editor.
any sense.
You've got to have a
Yeah,
separate set of eyes for this.
yeah. There's it's a longer book than the Y&T book, not just because of the chapters. I think that the chapters are longer. We're using the space better. There's more words per space, and yeah, hopefully it just and it's a formula that works. I've got more panel books in mind. I I've had many a conversation with Martin Popoff about this, and we're pretty good at making sure that we're not going to double up on a band, because what would be the point? So,
Right. Well, it's a beautiful book. And I think what Amazon's doing, I mean,
oh,
it makes it so easy for
it
somebody in your
just it just
situation.
opens the door that wasn't there before. I mean, honestly, I don't know that they were quite up and running with this process when Unspooled initially came out, because if
Mhm.
that had been the case, that's what I would have done
Yeah.
easily. Because we shipped the books out manually. We got boxes of books delivered, and it was packaging them and making sure they were packaged enough. And yeah, would have done the Amazon thing right from the get-go. The only drawback to the Amazon thing is that I can't sign copies to people, but who wants my signature?
I do.
Someday maybe, Grant.
I don't
But
know. Do I have, I can't, I've got the unspooled hardbound. I don't know
if you
how to
got
sign
one
it
of the
in.
Kickstarter ones,
No, I didn't. I
you
came
might have.
later.
Oh, okay. Because of the initial Kickstarter campaign, yeah, that we were, I think most of them were signed. We had different tiers of packages, but yeah, it's really opened up. And another person I got to give credit to the Amazon thing is Julian Gill, who anybody that's read Kiss books know Julian Gill, Kiss FAQ. I talked to him about his Mass Hysteria book, which is a great read, which is all about when Kiss toured Australia in 1980, that whole time period.
Mhm.
And he put that out on Amazon, and I'm like, how did you do that? So that led to and it made me want to do more. Because Unspooled was such a labor of love, but it was a lot of work. And there's that, are we ever going to make enough to make this worthwhile? And you know, with Amazon, they do the lion's share, right? They make the lion's share, but they also do the lion's share. You just don't have to worry about the shipping. And if somebody orders from Amazon and a book comes in the cover's bent, Amazon deals with that, not me. So
Mhm. Yeah,
yeah,
the
it just
quality
works.
is top notch.
And yeah, and that's another thing too. I mean, I wanted to, yes, it would have been great to have color photos,
Eh,
but it just would have made it so expensive and cost prohibitive. But I really like how the black and white came out. They're very clear. So
mhm.
no issues there.
I think it's great. Well, everybody, if you want to get your copy, the link is down below. And like I said, Tim's other three books. Well, this is the third book. His
This is
other
my third. Yeah.
the other two books are down, and use that same link. You can find it. Just look up Tim Durling on Amazon.
You can click on the author's name, right? It'll bring up everything that's
Yeah.
available. So if you post a link to the Kansas book, they click on my name, all three will come up.
All right. Awesome. Tim, I'm so happy for you. Great book. Thanks for having me involved. It's an honor. I'm tickled pink to see my name in print. So I I
And
thank
you
you.
raised a lot of good points, and you were growing up with it, whereas I didn't. So,
Yeah. I look at it in a different certain periods in a
yep,
different way.
yep.
But this covers it all. So awesome. Great job. And get yours, everybody. Link down below. All right, Tim, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. We will see on the next one. What's next on the Contrarians? I don't know, but I will say this. Tune in Wednesdays for the Contrarian live chat. We pretty much do that every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. If you'd like to be on our various conversations and topics, you can be. We have a Patreon, which we have a lot of engaging conversations on. You can join that. We also have a Ko-fi. Buy us a pint or a cup of coffee. We like that. And for God's sakes, just give us a donation. We like donations because we do this for you. We're just doing it to talk music and turn you on to stuff. And exactly why we have Tim here, because you need to pick up this book. All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. Tim, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Grant. See everybody.